I don't like it. And I'm only here because I want to see you. I want to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I would not be on Zoom. I promise.
I get it. I get it. That is something. Hey, Uncle Wayne.
Hey, what's the deal, Pickles? Okay, who was that used to say that all the time?
You're who?
Somebody used to say that on the radio show.
Tom Joyner. Tom Joyner Morning
Yeah.
Show.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. What's his
Look,
name? Huggy Lowdown.
yeah, hug it low down.
Yeah.
Okay, yay. We got on Facebook today. Yay. So I'm gonna go ahead and start a watch party. For those of you, if you're on your computer and you go to my Facebook page, you'll see the video. I'm gonna start a watch group on my Facebook page so people can join us. And let me turn my sound down. I'm gonna close my office door because Wayne is like right on the other side.
So what does that mean? That we can share it from here, from Zoom?
I don't know. Jill. I don't
That,
know.
Not
don't give me the line.
Okay.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
it
So
forever, Wayne. How you doing?
so I have it. It's
I
it's
am
live
doing
on
good.
Facebook right now. So we are going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to press the record button. Where's my record button? And we are going to go ahead and get started here. It is on Facebook Live.
Laura,
Yes, yes, sir.
can I go over to Sandra's house? She got stuff to eat.
I saw it.
What you trying to say? We ain't got nothing to eat here?
We got a little bit of leftovers, Mr. Wayne.
That's all I got.
You got
Oh.
something.
Oh yeah, we had fun cooking that last night. It was
All right, I'm gonna put everybody on mute except for Dr. Miranda. And you guys can unmute yourselves when you need to. I want to welcome everyone here to the last episode of Contagious Conversations. For those of you, this is your first time here. Contagious Conversations is a platform that I developed at the beginning of April when this COVID-19 quarantine thing came up. And I would joke and kid about being an introvert and how the quarantine and social distancing was my lifestyle anyway. So, it didn't matter. But I started going down my timeline and seeing those who were like social butterflies or extroverted, they were really struggling with this whole isolation thing. So I wanted to come up with just a way to keep people connected. And for those of you know anything about introverts, we don't really like small talk. And so for me to get into a platform where we're just talking, I wanted to make it be about something. So I want to make sure people get something out of it. And so that's why I said contagious conversation. We're spreading knowledge, not fear, because there was so much panicking going on. So this is how it was born. And I put the call out to all of my friends who I felt as though were experts in certain areas. And so we talked about everything from wood chips and shredded cheese. We talked about balancing your budget, having a financial plan. We've done poetry, music. We've done things in education. We, talked about, whether or not you should wax your vaginal area, all those different things. We've had so many subjects, and so that it was just a wide range of subjects. So people can say I didn't give you anything to learn. And
Right.
I've learned quite a bit things. And so we are going to have I have recorded all of the sessions. And so all of you guys will get the link to, any session that you want to go back and review. So I do thank you guys for being here. My name is Laura Brown. Most people call me Coach Laura Brown because I'm a publishing and writing coach. But basically, I want to today's topic is called, Oh, Those Alpha Women. And Dr. Miranda and I kind of, came together with things. And initially, we were just going to talk about the movie Made by Madam C.J. Walker, because we were just talking about some things that we both saw in that. And then we watched the Clark sisters. And then there were just some parallel things we saw between Dr. Maddie Moss Clark and Madam C.J. Walker. And so we, kind of came up with the alpha woman thing. And so you don't necessarily have to have seen the movies or the TV shows, because we'll be, talking about some points from it. But what I really want you to take away is just a self-assessment. And so once again, this is the portrayal of these women, not saying that's how these women actually were, but
Right.
how the TV shows portrayed them. So don't get in your feelings, well, she wasn't like that. This is the portrayal of those. So before we get started, and I'm going to let Dr. Miranda introduce herself, but let's go over some little housekeeping things. We are going to have time to take questions. So there are two ways that I want you to acknowledge if you have a question on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, definitely put your questions in the chat, or you can click on that link in the post, and you're welcome to register, get the access link, and join us right here in the room. But you can put your questions in the chat box, or you can, if you're on your phone, you have a raise hand button. If you're on your computer, there's a little button at the bottom that says reactions. If you click on that, you'll see two things. You'll see a hand clap, or you'll see a thumbs up. If you have a question, just click that hand, and then Dr. Miranda or I will acknowledge your question. So if you can just type it in the chat. If it's too involved to type in the chat, or you just don't feel like typing all that, then go ahead and raise your hands. And so what we're going to do, I have a quick poll that I want you guys to answer some questions for me as we get started. First of all, I'm gonna have you use your little reaction, but how many of you guys have seen either Self-Made with Madam C.J. Walker, or you saw the Clark Sisters TV show? Just raise your hand, clap your hands, whatever. But you guys have seen it. Okay, great. So let me see if I can launch this poll here.
Ooh,
So you see these questions here.
yeah.
So go ahead and answer those questions.
Wow. I'm impressed. I don't know.
Oops. Ooh. There we go. Can you guys see all of the questions? It should be 5 questions there. Okay. And these are anonymous. I'm not going to know who's answering what.
If I'm the only male, I'm pretty sure you can figure out.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I'm just
I
saying.
knew you were gonna say that. Look, your brother's right here beside. He just don't want to get on camera.
I see him on Facebook. For you guys on Facebook, I'm just doing a quick polling about different attitudes about alpha women. What do we got going on here? Has everyone answered all the questions there, chat? I tried to answer the last one in order to submit. Okay, just click one.
I did. I just clicked one.
Okay. All righty. Thank you guys. So let me see. Most of us are familiar with the phrase. 3 of us, 3 of you considered 4. Alpha, somebody don't know. Alpha go. Most of us have heard the term alpha woman in a negative view for those who are watching on Facebook. The intimate relationships is where most of the alpha women struggle.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know, is that kind of surprising, Dr. M, that the relationships is where?
No, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do, I'm going to let Dr. M introduce herself, tell us who she is, where she's from. Please let everybody know what services you offer, because you do the telecounseling, so you're not just stuck there. And then we're going to go back and forth. I have some, questions, some guided questions, and Dr. Miranda is going to share her expertise. Definitely if you guys have a question you want her to address,
Please.
Please
Let's
do that.
dialogue.
So we are going to go ahead and start. Dr. Miranda, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, hey, good people. My name is Dr. Miranda Pearson, and I am a licensed clinical mental health, behavioral health, and Christian counselor. I am a pastor, a life coach, and an inner healing and deliverance counselor. My specialty is unlayering trauma, childhood trauma to adulthood, and getting to the motive of behavior, speech, and actions. I have a PhD in human services with an emphasis in counseling studies, and I also have a PhD in theological philosophy. After working for 19 years in public education, I have always had a private practice since 2007, but in 2015, I started doing it full time. I quit the school system after 19 years and started doing it full time. I have two private practice locations, one in Johnston County, Eastern North Carolina, and one in Wayne County, Eastern North Carolina. And I do all types of counseling. I see people from age 5 to 99, 199 if they live that long. And I do women's issues, marriage counseling, trauma, depression, you name it, I do it. And I really, really enjoy it. I also host, it's usually a Monday. I can't say every Monday, so it depends on my schedule, but I host what's called Dr. M's Table. And primarily, we just do real talk like we're going to do on tonight. For a particular subject that someone has a question about, and we just talk real about it for an hour. I also host those real talk sessions in person. And before COVID-19, I was getting ready to go on the road and do them regionally. So I will stick to doing them distance via Zoom for right now. As Laura said at the beginning, I do distance counseling, and I've been doing that exclusively for the last 45 days. I see all of my clients online. That's it about me.
Okay, cool. And so once again, I'm just honored to have her. I've been knowing Miranda, Dr. M, since we got stationed in North Carolina. So her and Cheryl Davis up in the corner there, and Miss Dina in the other corner down there since we got there in 1998.
Yeah.
So we've been knowing each other for a long time. We were all youngins, less gray hairs then. And we've had some great adventures and many stories to tell. And so I am just honored to have her here. And so we're just going to go ahead and get started here. So Dr. Miranda, let's talk about some different traits. Like, how do you recognize whether or not you are an alpha person? What would you say some things are common traits of alpha women?
So usually alpha women are those women who embraces her leadership position. She's very talented, highly motivated, self-confident, they're poised, they are dominant, knows exactly what they want. Usually they are very misunderstood because it would appear that the spotlight is always on them. And they are very purpose-driven women. Uncontrollable risk takers. They are the type of women who jump. It doesn't matter if there's a parachute or not. They just believe that, on the way down, the parachute is going to be created, or they will hit the ground running and not fall. They're also the type of women who never give up, in my opinion. So, and let me just say this: alpha women vary according to their identity, their self-identity, and their self-esteem. So there's lots of characteristics of Madam C.J. Walker and of Dr. Maddie Moss Clark that do fit alpha and don't fit alpha.
So that is alpha and what?
I said so the alpha women, their characteristics, they vary according to their self-esteem and their self-identity. And so Dr. Maddie Moss Clark and Madam CJ Walker, they don't fit everything. It varied.
Okay. Right, right. So here's my question to you with all those different traits. And sometimes, I've met, women who say, well, I'm an alpha woman and I just do this and do that. What is the fine line between being an alpha woman and just being an asshole? I'm just saying, we grown here. I'm still saved, but that's what is that fine line?
Okay, fine line is, so asshole women are primarily female dogs, which we know as bitch. And they're usually very, what's the word I want to use? Catty. They're very catty. They try to pick a fight. They're contemptible. They have intelligence, highly intelligent, but they are very, very arrogant, narcissistic. They are intentionally cruel. These are the people who were probably bullies in high school and middle school and elementary school, and they attempt to humiliate people on purpose. So, and usually these are the type of women who lack true identity. They don't have confidence. They don't have self-esteem, and they have extreme difficulty in trusting other people.
Okay. So do you think with these character traits, would you say being an alpha woman is nature or nurture?
I think being an alpha woman depends on your environment, your situation, and in some cases it is generational. So it's a combination. It's like you said about Facebook, it's a crapshoot.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions about this particular subject as we move on? As far as traits of alpha women, Cheryl says they're controlling. She put, that as far as the difference between an alpha and a butthole is, it's more of a controlling versus a confidence type thing.
Yes.
So I'm looking on Facebook. We don't have any questions on Facebook. So let's talk about, once again, we are talking about the portrayals of Madam C.J. Walker and Dr. Maddie Moss Clark. We understand that when you're watching TV shows that the directors and creators, they take creative liberties and fill in the blank. So we're not saying that this is how Madam C.J. Walker actually is or was, or Dr. Maddie Moss Clark. We're saying based on the TV portrayals, we're looking at some traits and characteristics, and we're looking at ourselves. And for the men who are watching here and on Facebook, dealing with the women in your life, not just your spouse, but different women, and helping you understand how to deal with an alpha woman when you meet her. So let's talk about, we did that poll, and I saw that a lot of women are saying that as an alpha woman, you struggle in relationships. And so when I was looking at the TV show with Madam C.J. Walker in particular, there's this one scene, and I wanted to play it for you guys just so we can kind of set this stage here. And so I'm going to share my screen. Let me pop this down. I want to share my sound. Here we go. All right, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. Let me turn it up, make sure you guys can hear it. All right, this is the one scene that just really struck me.
Is Carnegie, Ford, and Rockefeller put together. I'm a ruler, Big Carnegie, Ford, and Rockefeller put together. I'm a ruler,
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so for me, the scene where they're getting ready to walk into this place, and he, Blair Underwood goes to, grab her, offers his arm and extends it, and she doesn't take it. She walks off and she just kind of leaves him behind. And for me, that part of the movie is when I said, oh, she done lost him right there. right there. That was like the marriage was over as far as I was concerned. So let's talk about alpha women in relationships, and why do what are some of the caveats to being an alpha in relationships, and maybe the type of men that we should or shouldn't be looking for. Talk about that.
So oftentimes, so in the particular case of Madam C.J. Walker, obviously we know that she was very wounded, right? So I think C.J. was her third husband. So she had been emotionally, physically, mentally abused. And so what you find is that women who fall in love when they're wounded, as they're healing or as they're advancing, what they needed at that stage of their life when they were wounded, they no longer want or attracted to as they are healing and advancing. So, she needed CJ to nurture her. Remember when she said at the beginning, he's such a good man. And, her hair was growing back and she was feeling loved and she was beginning to love herself. But as she got more and more popular and rich and more money, because at one point I think he said, how much is enough? And it's like she was so driven by the applause because she really did not have self-confidence or self-love. And so she didn't really know how to balance being a mogul woman and then being a wife and a mother.
Okay. You said something there that who she was when she fell in love with CJ and she grew, that the person she grew into no longer. Say that again. I was trying to catch that. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So what I find when especially like when women come to me, marriage in general, especially with second marriages and third marriages, when a woman finds a man and she's wounded, what she needed and wanted in him when she was wounded, as she heals and is being healed and is good, what she needed and wanted in him, she no longer needs and wants. And so that it's really not a marriage. She really needed him to nurture and to give her a part of her that she didn't have at that particular time. But as she has found her strength, her confidence, her self-love, or whatever, her career, then what she needed when she was wounded, she doesn't need when she's healed.
Well, okay, so with that, so with that, how do you save a marriage, or how do you keep a marriage together when I come in wounded? The wounded part of me loves you. Now I'm healed. My wounded part doesn't need you anymore. I can't just throw the man away because I don't, it's like a Band-Aid, I don't need you anymore. So how do you, I know we're kind of getting on the whole alpha woman thing. We're opening up another whole can of worms here, but
it's fine. And it is a whole can of worms, which is why I try to primarily get people before they get married. They need marriage counseling, because what I'm finding is women marry potential and not actuality. So you can meet a man and you say, ooh, I know in 10 years he's going to be XYZ, but he may not want to be XYZ. You see the potential and that's what you marry. And then when that doesn't manifest, you're frustrated, he's frustrated, and what you needed at that particular time, you no longer need. And so it is an issue. And sometimes the marriage can't be saved, to be perfectly honest.
Ooh.
And can I tell you this? The number one issues in marriage that I find with that particular issue is Christian marriages. Wow. Because Christian women marry pastors, evangelists, apostles, teachers, and prophets that they see, but when it doesn't materialize or manifest, they're frustrated because they marry potential and not actuality.
Wow. Okay, Wayne has a hand here.
You're muted.
No, I find that interesting when you were talking about being wounded, where, okay, as a man, I find you when you're wounded, and then when you're healed, you don't need that part. But and for me as a man, that seems kind of shallow for, or just one dimensional. You know, as a man, I'm more than one dimension. So if I can't adjust, then I probably got some other issues.
Ooh.
Because I mean, to adjust to that, that's not a big adjust. Okay, I do that to myself. I don't nurture my broken arm the same as my healed arm. And so as a man, that's not that big of an adjustment.
You're right, but you
It's
know
really
what?
not.
So you know what's happening then? You have two wounds that married one another. So you're right. He has his own set of issues. And what happens is when in a marriage, in my profession and in my example or experience, thank you, honey. In my experience, the women will say, but I just want him to grow. And the man will say, you're not going to change me. Well, growth is change. So if you're not growing, you're not changing. If you're not changing, you're not growing. You can't get him to understand that she's not telling you what to do, but I shouldn't be at the same place that I was when we first got married 15 years ago. We should have both grown. So to go back to what Wayne said, it's really a communication issue. People don't sit down and talk about their expectations of the person that they are now in a relationship with. What is it that you need from me? How is it that we can enhance one another as we are growing together in this marriage? We don't just get married to have sex, make babies, and you know, go to work, come home, pay the bills. You know, it has to be more than that.
Okay. And you know, and I guess it's interesting, you know, once we talk about growth, I'm gonna throw this out here. You know, let's say in the beginning, and I can maybe use Wayne and I for an example. We met when I was 23, he was 28. And I didn't have the confidence at 23 that I do now. So I may not have been an alpha type female at 23, but you know, now I'm, you know, 53 going on 54, and I have, you know, I've done some things, you know, and so people have, you know, begin to tell me, oh, you know, you're intimidating, or, you know, you're this alpha person. And I'm like, you know, I don't see that. So, you know, as far as you marry a beta, but then she grows into an alpha, you know, talk about that a little bit, maybe.
So, okay. So I believe that the misconception that people have of beta men is that they are weak and they are submissive, and, you know, they're just, I guess you tell them what to do. And that's not necessarily so. You can have a very strong man, and I guess the world calls him a beta man, but his strength is actually what nurtures the alpha woman to be able to become who she needs to be. He doesn't necessarily have to be out front. One of the things that Madam C.J. Walker did not do is she did not accept the nurture from her husband, and he was very willing. Yeah. He bought into her ideas. He moved. I mean, he quit his job. He came, became her employee. And so with his dad getting in his ear, and then she rebuffing his advances to love her, then everybody assumed that he's just a yes boy. You know, he's just a beta man. He's weak. He really wasn't. And I think sometimes that we label men weak because they're not out front. But I can tell you this, I would not be where I am if it were not for my husband, to love me and to nurture me and to push me, and not to be jealous of what, you know, God is doing in my life. He is equally as important as everybody thinks that I am.
Exactly. So here's another thing that I was just thinking about as we were just talking about, you know, women who are, you know, quote unquote alphas. I don't know. I can just kind of heard the term undercover alphas, where you use your power to maybe control and manipulate, you know, whether you're a true alpha or a wannabe alpha. You don't want to come out and say, oh, well, you do this or whatever, but you manipulate your way into controlling situations. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say here.
I do. It's like psychological warfare. So it's really like mind games. You're talking about like a man who just preys on a woman because he automatically knows that, okay, so she's this type and I can really be a chameleon and make her feel like she's in charge. But when we get married, I'm going to show her. Is that what you're talking about?
Kind of, well, I'm thinking about, like, say, for like women who, when we're talking about, what's far as, the whole alpha and the characteristics and trait, where either you are a true alpha, but you don't want to, be out front with it. So you manipulate or you twist, or you're not really an alpha, you just a wannabe alpha, and this and either in relationships. And I think it, maybe it makes you borderline narcissistic, because everything becomes about you when you twist words and you manipulate to, to get your way. You do something wrong, someone gets upset, but then it's their fault. And so you use your power to control other people's emotions. That's what, I don't know. Is that anything dealing with being an alpha, or is that something else, or is there such thing as an undercover alpha? Or
I don't know. I've never heard the term undercover alpha.
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
I just think it's mental health malady. if I had to name it, it's just a lot of psychological warfare there. Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else, before we move on, somebody Wayne said witchy poo.
Yeah.
Does there anyone have any questions before we move on? I know Facebook, you guys are like on maybe a 10 or 15-second delay with everything. So definitely, if we bring something up, even if we moved on, we can kind of cycle back and get to your question there. We have quite a few viewers on Facebook right now. And and so, yes, it is. Someone asked, was it being recorded? Yes, it is being recorded. So let's talk about the alpha women when it talks about family relationships, relationships. And I want to talk about Dr. Maddie Moss Clark and her daughters. And I know, it's no secret, Dr. Maddie Moss Clark, I think she was a true alpha. And out of all of her daughters, I would say Denise might have been the one that kind of matched her trait for trait. She could control the rest of them. So let's talk about the alpha woman in family relationships for a mother-daughter. So from this aspect, that if you have a mother and daughter, alpha, and then a mother who's the alpha, and the daughters who are more meek and mild. Talk about those dynamics a little bit, and how can we salvage relationships or be successful in these mother-daughter relationships?
So I think a lot of times when you're looking at the alpha women in that particular instance that you're talking about, Dr. Maddie Moss and her daughters being, I guess, a little submissive in a way. There's a lot of mother wounds there that I don't think that they've really addressed. I have to applaud the Clark sisters. I think it's very brave of them to tell their story, and it wasn't sugar-coated, I don't believe, or it wasn't like put under the rug. I mean, there's some real dysfunctional issues there. You're talking about father wounds, mother wounds, generational curses. You got spiritual abuse from the church, psychological. I mean, it's just a whole lot of stuff there. So with Dr. Maddie, I think she taught the girls how to be dysfunctional. And then with Denise, I think because she didn't conform, that's why she's not a part of the family even today. When you're talking about the alpha and the beta, the scene that struck me the most with, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but in the movie, it was when Twinkie was leaving. I think I put on Facebook at the time I was watching, I had no idea that Twinkie got married and had a kid. Like, I've never heard that before. I always assumed that Twinkie was always her mom's organist, and she was the one that never ventured out, got married, and have children. I actually used to feel sorry for her, because I was like, man, she spent her whole life, doing what her mama wanted her to do. But that scene where she didn't want her to go, and I guess her husband ended up pushing her, and they were crying. Wow.
Yeah.
I was kind of undone with that.
Yeah. That scene struck me too, because they both talked about, I think Twinkie told her mama, well, you needed me. And then the mama said, no, you need me. And I'm thinking, whoa, why, she's a grown woman. Why would you trying to put that in her head? It was like it was a codependency
Yeah.
there or whatever. And
Right.
then the relationship that Dr. Clark in the movie, the relationship she had with, Denise, and the bumping heads with Denise. And so what, I would say Denise was probably had those alpha traits. So let's talk about when you have, let's say, going back to mother and daughter relationships, when, you have, I'm an alpha, you're an alpha. How do we make this relationship work between mother and daughter without killing each other?
So I think there needs to be a discussion. And if we're talking about Dr. Maddie and her girls, like
Right.
Dr. Maddie had some serious wounds that she
Right.
never addressed. She never, I don't think she ever addressed the abuse between her first husband. I think he abused her. And then the second husband, I don't know if he started out abusing her, but I think she was, very manipulative. Even the way she talked to him. Well, honey, we're just gonna go sing, and he wanted her to be the first lady. I don't know how I think she never really had a discussion with her girls that was honest. Everything
Right.
was God said. God said this, and God is not happy with you, and God is not pleased with this, and God is not. She didn't really have a balance between being a mom. I didn't, even when Denise told her that she was pregnant, her way of dealing with it was putting her hand on her shoulder. Like there was no discussion, there was no. So I don't know the answer to your question when you're saying how can two alpha women talk it out. I think in that particular case, there was some significant trauma that she needed to process. And in turn, her girls were traumatized. So unless both sides of the alpha women process their trauma, I don't know if they'll ever like be copacetic. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
when you say process the trauma, I don't want to, like I said, I know that get into too much deep stuff here,
Yeah,
but what the stages of processing that type of trauma look like? Like, first thing you need to do is do we
You're
need
talking
to, like,
about if she had a discussion with her children, like
yeah,
like the incident of them. I think it was the oldest daughter, Jackie, coming home from
right,
work, and they were fighting upstairs, and she called
right,
the police. And so it
right,
would appear that her mom comes down the steps and she's taking up for the dad. Like it would have been an opportune time to say, girls, you know, I'm in this situation. I don't want you to be in this situation, or this is why I've stayed. I think Denise resented her for staying, and I'm sure Jackie did. That's why they got married so early. Because
right,
why are you staying with a man who beat you? Like she never explained anything, but she was a taskmaster at the things of God. And
right.
never even really explained what that was. Like, what is God saying? You remember when I think it was Twinkie that said, I can't distinguish between your voice and God's voice. I don't know if it's God or is
Yeah,
it
yeah. I would say
Oh,
that's an issue with maybe, once again, Christianity in general, when you're so heavily, involved in the ministry, and you equate serving God with serving the ministry. And it wasn't until, later in life I learned those two really are not the same,
no,
and that
they're
you
not.
can serve the ministry 24/7 and be
And
so far
still
away from
serve God.
serving God because you've neglected your family there. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why I said that she probably needs to have a discussion with them, because maybe they're not true alpha women. Maybe they're just rebellion. And so sometimes we
Okay.
look at people and we say, oh, they're alpha women. But sometimes it's just rebellion. I'm just going to do my own thing. You saw that with Madam CJ Walker. In some cases, she was not a true alpha woman because she didn't really know exactly who she was. She had a self-esteem issue because she was jealous of the
Okay.
Addie girl. Um, She was afraid to be alone. Even after CJ cheated on her, she went back to him, even if it was one last
Right.
time or whatever.
Okay.
There was no balance. Alpha women have balance in their life. She didn't
Okay.
have any balance.
Okay.
She didn't really embrace change, and she didn't know how to love or be loved.
Okay. So I think so. You
You
need
have a
to
question,
bring up that word. Who had a question? Who got the hand up?
Sandra?
Cassandra. Okay. Let me unmute you here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what happens if you are the alpha and the role with your parent has been reversed? So for me and both of my parents, my mom and my dad, I'm older than both of them mentally. And
Okay.
so when, because they have issues that they haven't addressed. So what's a way I can show up for them without
Putting them
being impatient? Being impatient because I'm like, hey, here I am. I'm the child and I'm giving you stuff, I'm giving you information that I feel like you should be giving me.
Okay. So number one, I would have to ask you, have you healed from that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you still have harbor bitterness or resentment toward them?
Toward my mom, yes, not so much toward my dad.
Okay. So I would suggest that you deal with that, not necessarily with her because she may not be able to process what you're going to say to her, but you need to deal with that mother wound that you have with her. And then after you are able to just be empathetic, like be able to walk in their shoes and understand, you got to meet them where they are. So if their emotional development is 16 or 17 or 18, you're not going to be able to help them grow up or mature. Like that's it. Have you accepted the fact that this is the way that they're going to be? Have you mourned that? Have you grieved that?
No.
And so that's probably, that's what has to happen, or else you'll be bitter for the rest of your life. And then even after they're gone, there will be no relief because you never came to a resolve. So the first thing you have to do is forgive them, forgive them, okay? And then work through your mother wound, accept them where they are, and then deal with them where they are. Does that make sense? Am I
How
making
do
sense?
you, yes, how do you do that without becoming the parent?
Okay. So in order to shield and protect your heart, you're going to have to make clear boundaries. And so if you don't feel like you're in a position to now mother them, then as you meet them where they are, and I don't know the specifics, so I can only give you generalities. But if hypothetically, like they're 18, or if that's their emotional and mental state, then like you would your 18-year-old, you have to give them boundaries. Are they asking you for stuff like money, a place to stay? I need you to do this. I need you to run me here. Is that the type of things are you talking about?
No.
Okay.
So they don't live here, but just to give you just really quick, okay, because I don't
Okay.
want to take over this.
Sure.
My mom called me because she's had men issues for many years,
Okay.
and her boyfriend was about to leave, and she called me sobbing and crying, and she was like, "Please tell him not to leave me." And I'm like,
Oh.
it's like that over and over and over and over again.
So she is very damaged. Like she's very wounded. So what was your response?
Are you
Did you get
serious?
mad? Oh, okay. So
Are you serious, mom? If he wants to leave, let him leave. And she was like, I can't, I love him.
so I would again forgive her, work through my own pain, and then I would limit phone calls. I would limit, like the type of, like if she said, will you please, I can't do that, sweetheart. You're going to have to work out your own thing. Are you doing okay? How's everything going? Okay, I've got to go. Bye. Like limit the conversation so you won't get so frustrated, because what happens is if you continue that dialogue and now you get off the phone, that's on your brain for the rest of the day. And it makes you angry. It makes you bitter. Then you have to go back to the past. She wasn't there. She cared more about men than she cared about me. You see the cycle? So it is never ending if you don't just forgive her and say, hey, she did the best that she could with what she had. Let me meet her where she is, and then deal with her like the age that she is, and limit your dealings with her, because that preserves your heart, and that preserves your mental space and your peace. Listen, above all, I'm going to have some peace. So if that means that I have to cut you off to have peace and to have a good relationship with God, I got to do that. So
Thank you.
hope that helped.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right,
Thank
Laura.
you. Okay, Tasha has a question.
Sure.
Hi. Okay. So, what advice do you have, or how do you go about nurturing the alpha in your child? Because I mean, most of y'all on here watched me grow up. So,
Are you an alpha? Are you an alpha?
you know, you can call it alphabellious, whatever.
Alpha.
But I mean, but that, how do you nurture that and try to sift through how much of it is just, okay, like you just rebellious, or how much of it is like, my child is an alpha. How do I, nurture that and hone in on that and try to, make sure that when she does get older, because I mean, I think Harmony is the undercover alpha, is what my mom was saying.
Okay.
Very quiet. However, she said what she said and she meant what she meant. And she doesn't follow. She gonna do what she want to do.
Right. And I think that's very healthy, and it's okay with boundaries. So, between the ages of 0 and 12, you are teaching, you're nurturing, you are imparting. Between the ages of 13 and 21, you are allowing your child to demonstrate what they've learned. And then, 21 and beyond, they're on their own. But make sure that and she knows what true love is, and that starts with self-love. Make sure that she knows and understands what respect is. She can have a strong opinion, but while she lives with you, you are the dominant force and the law. And so I would not be going head to head with an 11-year-old or a 12-year-old just because I'm trying to nurture her leadership capabilities. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
So to nurture her leadership capabilities, if you really want to do that, put her in charge of the pancakes on Saturday mornings. But you're not running me. You might be in charge of the pancakes on Saturday mornings, but you're not running anything in the house. And then make sure that there's some balance. Make sure that there's some balance, Tasha, that like, don't make that so glamorous. Like, she sure is headstrong, because it's cute now, but when she's 16 and she starts, doing this with you, you're not gonna think it's cute. Make sure that there's boundaries. Make sure that there's rules and there's regulations and there's consequences for behavior. Did I answer that correctly for you?
Okay.
I want to dig into the alpha woman being misunderstood. Okay, cool. Alexis.
Okay. We were going to actually get into that, but go ahead and talk about that now.
Okay, but in what context? What does she mean? Just in general?
And what you can unmute yourself, Alexis, and talk about kind of explain what you're saying.
Hey, I'm gonna leave my little screensaver up because I don't have my lashes on. But
oh my God.
So I want to dig into being misunderstood, because I have found that my alpha personality typically shows up when I'm at work. It does show up in my romantic relationships, but we passed that part right now. So let's talk about work. Okay. So I have been, the words to describe me have been words like disrespectful, not inconsiderate, let's see, what are some other ones? Arrogant, elitist was one. I've been called racist. I've been called let's see, incompetent. I mean, a lot of these things, when I assert myself and when I have found what I caught myself doing is I would shrink so that I would make others comfortable. But I found myself observing other people who were alphas in the organization and not having been subjected to those same adjectives. And I do feel that if I were a white male, I would have been called ambitious, assertive. It would have been the complete opposites of those other adjectives. And so misunderstood is another one where that comes up sometimes in my personal life, where it's the assumption is that I'm a bitch, or I'm not accessible to people, I'm not friendly, but that's not the case, or that I'm always trying to what's the word, that I'm trying to I have a takeover spirit. I do accept being rebellious. I'm okay with being rebellious.
You are okay with that.
Yeah. I think sometimes you need to rebel against things. Sometimes things don't need to go the way they've always been.
That's true.
Yeah, and if you need to initiate change, that's rebellious.
But is your rebellion with a purpose, or just because for the sake of rebellion? So what I find sometimes with alpha, especially Black women, is that when we walk into a room, we want to make it known to everybody in the room that we are supposed to be there. And so when you say that, the people on the job, they say this or they say that about what is your motive? Sometimes you have to check your heart posture for the behavior that you exhibit. So sometimes I find people that say, well, that's just my personality. But is that really truly your personality, or is that your defense mechanism for having been called these names for such a long time? And now I have to make sure that people understand that I mean business. And does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And I'm self-aware to have checked myself on that point. I will not sit here and act like that was not an underlying motive to my behavior at some point. It isn't now, but okay. I will admit that, when I walk in a room, as many of these other women on the call, I stand out, and for reasons. One, I may be the only woman in the room. I may be the only woman of color. And I mean, I do carry myself with a whole lot of confidence, because that is who I am, and it is genuine. And but I think this misunderstood is, if I call out some behavior at work, I don't know if I could bring up an example really quickly, but if it's
why do you call out the behavior? Are you a supervisor?
I'm a director. Yeah.
Okay. So you're not calling out the behavior, you're correcting the behavior. So there's a difference. So when you're calling out behavior, you are pointing out things that you don't like, things that annoy you, things that you don't think should be that way. But if you are correcting behavior, then you're correcting the behavior according to protocol. And so when you say, when I walk into the room, do you assess when you walk into the room, are you a thermometer or are you a thermostat? Mm-hmm. But like sometimes, when I walk into the room, I carry the authority. I don't have to tell you that I am the authority.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So do you walk into the room as a thermostat? Are you a thermometer? Are you up and down? What's your behavior like?
Mm-hmm. I would say it's pretty consistent. I can think of one incident where I was with other directors and the senior leadership, and I was very candid with them and expressed that I felt unsafe at the organization.
Wow.
And I did not feel like, as a woman of color, that I was supported well, and that there were decisions that I felt were undermining, and that we really need to dig into the practices and the policies of the organization so that I feel safe, but anyone else in the organization feels safe speaking up if something feels unfair, or if we should move into a different direction. There's already a culture of fear, of retaliation there, and And quite frankly, after speaking up, I see it. You know, I've experienced it, but it's those moments where I get called disrespectful or out of alignment, because it's I mean, and I think it's a very alpha thing to say, hey, you know what, something needs to shift here.
Yeah,
The culture, something needs to shift, we're out of alignment. But that alpha in me gets misunderstood and called disrespectful or all these other things. So that's the part that I was.
So I would have to ask you, how is your deliverance when you do that? Like, you know, there's a way that you can correct behavior, or you can say things, or you can bring it up, or you can bring it to attention. It is in your deliverance. How you say it is very important.
Mhm.
And then I would ask you too, this organization that you're talking about, is this somewhere that you want to retire? Or are you there to make a systemic change, or is this a job? And so if you're not there, like, are you purposed to be there? Is this an assignment? Are you on assignment? Or is this just, you know, a job and I don't know if I'm going to be there to retirement? Like, there's a lot of factors there. So I wouldn't put a lot of energy into a place that I don't have stock in, or that I'm not vested in. And then it sounds to me like you don't have a voice, and they're not trying to make room for you at the table to have a voice, to change anything systemic. So I would weigh my options that, okay, so, you know, where am I going from here? What am I going to do now? Like, does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Hope I answered it.
You did. I mean, you know, I think being misunderstood probably comes with being an alpha woman, and I have to have the toolkit to assess it, like you said, and just be like, you know what, maybe I need to move on or create another.
Well, I can tell you. So I just turned 49 a couple of weeks ago. So my alpha assertive nature was different at 29 than it is at 49. Because I've learned how to, again, be the thermostat and not the thermometer. And I've learned the art of deliverance. There are some things, and Cheryl and I were just talking about this last night. There are some things that we hear younger women say that we cringe, because you being nasty and mean doesn't make well for systemic change. And so I think sometimes it comes with age and maturity. And I'm not saying that you're not, you know, mature, Alexis. That's not what I'm indicating. But
I'm following you.
But it took me a while to get to the place where, you know, when I was in my 20s, it was a certain arrogance that I had. And now it's very humble. Like, and I think it came with maturity. And then with an older person, which is why I'm so pro Titus too, it took an older woman to pull my coattail and say, you know what, that ain't cute. You know, you all that in a bag of chips, but that ain't cute. And I'm gonna need you to change the way that you address people, because I took great pleasure in cutting you, but I didn't have any balm to go back and say, well, this is why I said that. And this is, does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. And I will clarify, in that moment, I started with an anecdote about an incident that happened to my oldest daughter, who's 12. And I just said, you know, this, her experience in the 6th grade, unfortunately mirrors some of the experiences I've had at this organization. And I believe that, you know, there's an opportunity for us to dig a little deeper and create a safer environment.
Yes, I would do that. You be the systemic change that they need, Alexis.
I like that. I like that.
Thank you.
Okay, we got 2 things, and I like that fact you said that it's one thing to be able to go in and cut and make a wound for a purpose, but if you don't bring the balm behind it, then that's where the maturity comes in, when you carry a sword in one person, some balm in the other. And and I've had to learn that. Widantria asks, is there a difference? That we got Widantria wants to talk about, is there a difference? And then Cheryl wants to go back to intimate relationships, and I'll unmute her to let her elaborate on that. So is there a difference between misunderstanding and judgment when you were talking with Alexis, and being misunderstood, or is it, I'm not quite sure exactly Weedy, if you wanted to elaborate, if you wanted to elaborate on that at all.
I think it's both. But go ahead, Weedy. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Oh, Dantria, I'm sorry.
I know.
Habits, old habits are hard to break.
Yeah, I ain't got my makeup on either. Thank you, Alexis. You're giving me an opportunity. No, I was just trying to get clarification because there was at a point where I thought we were talking about misunderstanding, but as Alexis was talking about her examples, there seemed like there was judgment, and I know one with misunderstanding.
I'm doing something.
Say again. Oh, I don't think. Okay, sorry, that scared me.
Yeah, it scared me too. I was like, "What is?"
I know. So with misunderstanding, I know we have a lot of responsibility in that we need to be more clear and more. We have an opportunity to be more relatable to other people when it comes to them understanding who we are. And I know with judgment, it is a lot less likely that we can make somebody not judge us. So that's why I was trying to get clarification. Is there a difference between misunderstanding and judgment beyond what you and Alexis were talking about?
Well, can I say this too? Sometimes when people are wounded, they think everything is a conflict. And I'm not saying that Alexis is wounded, but I'm finding out that there's some alpha females that, let me just say this, they have alpha traits and they have alpha characteristics. But because they're so wounded, anybody who even approaches to help them, or they say something that's constructive, or they make a comment, everything to them is critical. And so, or criticism. And so it's a conflict, and you're jealous of me, or you don't like me, or they didn't appreciate what I said. So sometimes that's why I said to her, examine what your motive is. Sometimes you have to go back and see, is that truly what that is? Like you just said, Weedy, misunderstanding or judgment, or, is it me? If every time I have a job, and at every job that I have, and I say to Laura, who is my friend, I mean, everybody's just so jealous of me everywhere I go. I would probably, no, that's not the case. I would have some issue there. And then I would have to figure out, why is it that I assume, because assume makes an ass out of you and me. Why is it that I assume that everybody is jealous of me? And could it be that I have self-esteem issues? So when I do walk into the room, I have to make my presence known. I have to make you understand and know that I'm smarter than you, and I've got this degree, and I've been here, and yeah. So sometimes it is not judgment. It could be judgment, or it could be misunderstanding. I got off on a tangent. Sorry, Laura.
Oh, that helps me out. Thank you so much.
Okay.
No, I think it's interesting you said that as far as when authority. I would say that, those who have the true alpha traits, there are some people who demand authority, and there are some who command authority.
Yes.
And to me, there's a difference. You're going to respect me when that's you're demanding to be recognized versus, no, I'm here, and because of the presence I bring, you're going to operate as I have been designed for you to operate with me. And there's a difference between demanding respect and commanding respect. So.
And there's some alpha women who feel like they have to be aggressive and not poised. You don't have to be aggressive to be assertive. You can be poised and assertive and get your point across. There all that rah and all that aggression, and I'm gonna fight you, and I gotta get my point across. It's too much. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna open up with Cheryl. I think today's TV is giving people that impression that you have to be, the snap, crackle, and pop kind of person, and how they talk to the men on these reality shows, and I'm like, maybe when those cameras go off, they probably rubbing his feet and fluffing his pillow. You know what I'm saying? But all this, all this, and I'm like, don't get it twisted. They making money. They're getting paid to be like that. You're gonna be a fool for free and be by yourself. And so, there is a certain poise that should come with that authority. And if you got to, crack your neck, maybe you're not truly, an alpha if you got to do all that. Maybe you want to do one of those wannabes or whatever. But Cheryl, you said you want to go back to something with the relationship. You want to kind of open up on that?
Hi, everyone. I just want to know just your opinion about maybe someone who's an alpha woman or who has a strong personality, that sometimes men are intimidated by that. I don't know, or then they want you to cower down, which, y'all know the deal. So, and so then it's hard then to get into another relationship because you say, I'll never go back to that place again.
Yes.
So talk to that issue.
So do you feel like you're attracting the same type of men?
In some ways, yeah. And then, so, I guess because, if you have an assertive personality, you know who you are and that kind of stuff.
Right.
I guess I can just only talk from experience.
Right.
That's not appreciated, or, you've been said that you want to be the man,
Wow.
because I just can't sit back and let things go under because I'm supposed to be submitted.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
how does one handle that when they're the spouse or the friend, the boyfriend or whatever does not take care of situations, and you know how to handle the situations, so I guess what I'm saying, you want to be submissive or
right.
Submitted, but
right.
I'm just not going to let stuff go down.
So can I say, I think one of the reasons why women are so assertive and can be alpha is because they marry men with no vision. And so when you say, I know that I can do it and it's not being done, and I'm trying to understand why you're not doing it, I would have a conversation before we even get to the stage where we're talking about marriage and engagement and all that, and make it perfectly known. This is my expectation of what marriage looks like to me. What is your expectation of marriage? And make sure that you all are on the same page, because I think because people throw around the word submission all the time, it doesn't mean that you do everything that your husband is. That's not what that means. And I think because we're dating people and we show our best face forward for a while, and then you start to see, I'm not doing this. I think you need to have a conversation like up front. Like, what do you think? Like, have scenarios like on a piece of paper. What do you think about this? And what will you do in this case? And, I would just make my petition known that this is what I'm not going to do and this is what I am going to do. And here's the thing too. You're not submitting to him. You're submitting to the vision of the house. Mm-hmm. What are we deciding together is the vision for this house. I'm not submitting to your green bean casserole every Sunday. I'm not submitting to me, rubbing your feet every Friday night and then you follow. That's not what I'm submitting. I'm submitting to the vision of the house. So I am submitting my gift and I'm helping you meet what is our vision. And I think some women are alpha, not because they want to, but because somebody got to do something. I mean, what are we doing? Right. It's like a perpetual hamster wheel. We just keep going the same way over and over again, expecting a different result. And you keep talking about, one day is now. Let's make this money. Let's do it.
Right.
And so it forces us to be alpha, unfortunately, sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. It's kind of hard. I think sometimes kind of hard to follow up. I'm sorry. It's kind of hard to follow a parked car.
With a busted tail light, right? With a busted tail light.
Something else you wanted to say, Cheryl?
Yeah, she and I have had these conversations, but it's just an interesting thing. When you are a person who believes in getting things done and like you said, somebody's got to do something. So
Yeah.
So a lot of times, well, I would say sometimes they don't appreciate that, and so it's got to be a balance, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah. And then you have to get a man that appreciates like every ounce of you, like every bit of you, period. If they know that that's your personality, he should not be threatened by that. He should not be moved by that. And that's my wife, and I love that about her. And we enhance each other. I think that's
why I sit here today.
Huh?
I said that's why I sit here today. I'm not jumping in that one.
No giggling tonight. No giggling with you tonight. That's funny.
All right. Tasha, did you have a question?
No, I'm just clapping my hands.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, yeah, that was a yeah. What she said.
Okay, great. So we've talked about, the alpha woman with relationships, with intimate relationships, dealing with family. Now here's a statement that I've heard over and over and over again. And for me, I cringe when I hear it.
Okay.
Is when I hear women say, that's why I don't have a lot of women friends. I don't really like, it's always so much drama. Is it? And so I cringe when I hear that, because I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? And so do you think it has like too many alphas in the pot, or what?
No, I really don't. I mean, all of my friends are alphas, to be honest. I think it is a matter of you being comfortable in your own skin. And you being comfortable who's at the table with you, and then you appreciating the differences. Like, I don't need to be jealous of Cheryl. She got flair for days. I appreciate that about her, and I enjoy the time that we have, and we enhance each other. I don't get mad and then don't speak to her for several weeks because she had on something red that I really like. I mean, I think when women say things like that, because I used to be one of those women. I mean, I just get along better with men. I had the issue. It wasn't the women. It was me. And a part of that was I didn't have the self-esteem that I thought I had in order to be in the room with all these great women. These are awesome, women. And so it's called projection in psychology. So you actually project onto other people how you feel about yourself. So, she thinks she all that. No, you think she's all that, and that's okay. And it's okay for you to say, girl, you got it going on. You got it going on. And I think sometimes we have this crab in a barrel mentality where when we see, another woman striving, you just want to bring her down. If buy somebody else's product, that burns me up. When people say, they want you to support them, but they never support the other woman, or they never buy her product, or they always got issues, and sometimes it's their issue.
Okay. And and this might sound like an oxymoron, but I know you said one of the traits, or that I was reading, as far as a woman with alpha traits, that we can be competitive, but we don't have to feel like we need to compete with each other. I can be competitive. I want to win that Scrabble game. I want to do the best, or whatever. Yes. If we playing spades, if I got a good hand, I might smack it down, maybe. But yes, I don't have to compete with you to for the spotlight, or like you said, I can appreciate Cheryl's flair for just finesse, everything, gracious, gorgeous, always been just a fan of everything. I don't have to compete. I can't compete with the talents and gifts around me. And I think maybe sometimes we have to understand that you can be competitive. And then when you try to match, I don't know, gift for gift, once again, going back to check yourself and find out, what you're good at, and excel in that, right, and trying to, even even if someone else is doing the same thing that I'm doing, I'm not the only one in the city who's helping people write books. I don't get offended by that. When you can be in my inbox and they ask me questions, I'll give you the information because you ain't gonna do it like me.
That's right.
I don't have that issue, and I think we have to, if we have to be in balance with that you can be competitive. You want to be the best. You want to do the best, but I don't have to compete. If I'm a true alpha and I have true authority and confidence, I don't have to compete with you.
You're right. I have two sayings that I say. One is, I'm not your competition, I'm your iron. Because what does the Bible say? That iron sharpens iron. So I'm not your competition, I'm your iron. And the other one is, a candle loses nothing if it lights another candle. Have you ever done that? Taken one candle to light another one? They don't lose anything. The candle doesn't go out. It doesn't lose anything. Doesn't lose any traction, any light. And so you're absolutely right, Laura. We could be doing the same exact things, but we will never do it the same. And usually when women are jealous and catty and they're irritable, they really have their own issue. They need deliverance.
Okay. Cassandra said, what about boundaries in your profession? You want to elaborate on that, Cassandra?
You're muted.
Let me unmute you.
Okay.
Okay.
So for me, everybody knows, well, some people know what I do. And like, I'll have
say it for the people who don't.
Yes.
I have a company that I created called Divine Purity. So I hand make all natural lotions, scrubs, bath and body oils. I use a lot of aromatherapy. So that's what I do. And I learned everything because I researched it. I built my company from the ground up. And when you have people who never talk to you, they're really not your friends, who are in your inbox trying to get you to give them tips. It's not really even so much as like tips and pointers. It's almost like, how do you do this? Or you know what I mean? And I've learned to give. At first, I was like, oh, I don't want to have the crab in the barrel mentality. So I would just give information, give information, give information.
Right.
And for me, if this is my livelihood,
yeah,
and I have put in a whole lot of work to do this, I think that it doesn't mean that I'm a crab in a barrel. I may point you to a book that you need to read, but if I may not necessarily give you step-by-step instructions on how to do something, but I don't think that makes me a crab in a barrel. I think that means that I'm protecting me as my asset.
Absolutely. And I didn't mean that particular example as being a crab in a barrel. What I meant
is that like that.
Right. Okay. What I meant is that not applauding you when you say, hey, I just made a new soap, or hey, I just made a new what do you call it?
Spray.
Yeah. Or I say, well, I mean, that's about 10 people already doing what you're doing. See the crab mentality? That's pulling you down instead of building you up. Now, I can say this about you and people in your inbox. You need to start charging them for information, because they weren't there when you read all these books and you got all this information. So people always say, well, why do you have to charge for everything? Because that's my time. You're paying for my time, and you're paying for my expertise. What took me years to accomplish, you're paying for that. And so maybe you need to do a class, or say to them, hey, I'm going to enroll you in my next class. I wouldn't spend a lot of time answering them about stuff that you're doing. I hope you don't do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would not do that at all.
Yeah, and I agree. There are certain things that, I will give you for free, but then there are certain things where, that's like $60 an hour to get that information from me. And some people say, oh, well, I'll get back with you. And they never do. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't, I've learned not to even chase anybody. I don't even give out my business cards anymore unless somebody asks me for it. Because I'm like, okay, if you want to know how to write a book, then you ask me for my information. These cards cost me money. I'm throwing them away. So, but yeah, you need to have, certain sets of information that you're willing to give away, but then there's certain things that, maybe do a class on how to, make the soap, do a class on something, and charge for the products and whatever. And I can tell you most of the time, after that first class, I had people tell me, oh, I don't think I really want to learn this. Let me just pay you. Okay.
Yes.
Start thinking about what are you willing to give away? And then what are you willing, do you want to charge for? And charge not what you think people will pay, but charge what you're worth, and then add 10%.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah. So let's see. We got 10 more minutes left. I want to talk about this one last thing.
Okay.
When it comes to, and I think we kind of touched on it about, that balance. I think that was one thing that you said, that we need to learn balance. And I think about even with in the portrayals of Dr. Maddie Moss Clark and Madam C.J. Walker, that drive to succeed in the outside overruled the drive to succeed with marriage, with family. And so how do we make sure to harness that I want to succeed in business, especially in this day and age? You have more and more business owners, more and more entrepreneurs than you did 20, 30, 40 years ago. We're outside. But, as an alpha, that balance that you talk about, that I can succeed on the outside. I think about that old Angela commercial. I can bring home the bacon right up in the pan.
We're telling our age.
How do we make sure to keep that Angela thing going on?
So let me correct what I said, if I said that, because I don't believe that you can have balance as a woman.
Okay.
I think as a woman, we have seasons. And so you go through a season of motherhood, you go through a season of empty nest, you go through a season of, I don't think you can have balance. So if I said that, I misspoke. I think that women have to prioritize what's important in what season they're in. So like, for instance, I'm 49, Laura is my friend, Cheryl is my friend, we're about the same age, but they're in a season of kids are gone and grown. And I'm in a season of raising a 12-year-old. And so when they say, hey, Miranda, we're going on a cruise, I can't go, or I have to get arrangements to go. So I've had to really embrace my season of womanhood and prioritize according to my season. So when you're talking about Dr. Maddie Moss Clark and you're talking about Madam C.J. Walker, they really, their drive to succeed and their motivation came from wounds and not esteem or purpose, really. Like their wounds. Okay, I'm going to show you I'm good. Madam C.J. Walker, I'm going to show Addie that I'm just as good as she is by making this product. Like it really was, and maybe it became her, lot in life and her assignment or whatever, but it was really driven by a wound. And then she did not prioritize the seasons of her life. You have a husband, and whether you like it or not, as driven as I am, I have to shut down the computer and prioritize, hey, it's not time to do business right now. It's time, husband time or son time. And that's been hard for me because I am so driven. And then I'm the age that I am. So like, I'm not 28, I'm 49. And so, it's like, oh no, you can't do that. It's time for a baseball game. Oh no, you can't do that. It's time for a football game. Oh no, you can't do that. It's time for basketball. And so I think priority and according to the seasons of your life really helps you with your drive to succeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
One last thing here, then we're going to wrap up.
Okay.
Going back to women, the alpha woman and her response to being controlled, or a man trying to control her. I thought about, how Madam C.J. Walker responded to C.J. trying to, control her and tell her how her business was going to be. And then even when Dr. Clark was before that, the board of men who didn't want her to, perform with her daughters. And, she was salty about that. So let's talk about, our responses to, men in particular trying to control or even squash the leadership in us.
Yeah, so there was a quote on Facebook the other day, and I can't remember verbatim, but basically it was saying if a woman doesn't do what she was born to do, she'll be miserable for the rest of her life. And so when you're talking about a man trying to squash what you were born to do or your assignment or what you desire, it all goes back to why you got with this person in the first place. Like that really needs to be a conversation. What does our marriage look like in the wake of this is what I know that I was born to do? I know that I was born to be an entrepreneur. And if I don't own something or make something or do something, I'm going to be miserable. Are you good with that? So I don't know how much of a conversation that Madam CJ Walker and CJ had. And then with Maddie Moss dealing with men trying to, I guess, downplay or make you sit down from your post. That's really a decision. Like, are you going to just take that? Or, I mean, to me, she took it, but she used her girls. So she pushed them into the forefront because I guess for her, religion ruled. And it was religion because you're talking to 4 men or 5 men who told her they were going to sit her down. Well, that was her esteem. Her being Maddie Moss Clark, and everybody knew it. And she was the regional choir director, whatever. And she created some type of vibrato with the choirs or whatever. She couldn't lose that. So I would have to ask the question, who are you getting your esteem from? If a man told me that, you know, you can't do this and you can't do that, if it's not my husband, talk to the hand.
Yeah. Well, you know, there was even a moment in the movie where the girls had found, I guess, some kind of award or something up under the bed and say, you know, why mama got it up under here? Well, you know, because daddy don't want, you know, to see it or whatever. And so, you know, that particular scene too kind of struck me that, you know, hiding, you know, to me, she was hiding her accolades so the husband wouldn't be intimidated by it, and the girls, you know, found it. And so, you know, that whole thing where, you know, men being intimidated, and since we got Robert still there with you.
No, he just left.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask, you know, Wayne, do you want to add anything from a male perspective?
Well, one thing I noticed you were talking about submission, and I think Laura, you had said is, you know, is you can't follow a parked car.
Yeah.
And when we talk about submission, it usually comes up in a negative sense. It really does.
Right.
But it's really not. The way Laura and I work, there's something that she is great at that I can't touch her, and I don't try to touch her. And what happens is, if I jump up and say, well, you need to submit to me, I really don't want her to submit to me. I want her to submerge. And usually when you submerge, you drown. And so that can be a real problem. You know, is it submission or submersion? And Dr. Miranda, you can take that one. That was for free.
So I'm going to take it. I'm going to give you credit, but I'm definitely going to take that. But that goes back to what Cheryl was saying earlier. Like I can't hide my personality and who I am ever again to make you feel like a man, which is why you have to have that discussion right off the bat. And I love what you guys said earlier. The Brown said they grew together, but unfortunately, when people get married, they get married for the wrong reason, and it needs to be a discussion. Like, where are you right now in your life, and why are you getting married? And this is how I am, and this is what I need, and this is how it's going to be. Like, that needs to be a very serious discussion, probably week 3 of us talking and dating before it goes any further. And some, what you say, catching feelings, if some feelings get involved, because it's harder to break it off when you say I love you and I love you too, and now y'all making all these plans, but in your heart you like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can put up with that. You need to have that discussion early. Like, this is who I am. I'm driven, I'm ambitious, and this is what I am going to do. I remember my husband and I, we were not dating, we were just friends. And he took me to lunch and he said, hey, what do you want to do with your life? And I thought I was already doing it. But anyway, he said, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I want to own my own business. And he said, well, what's stopping you? And I said, money. Or I think at the time I had to take a test to become a counselor. And I said, I have to take this state test or national test, and I don't have the money right now. So he pulls out his checkbook. We're dating. I mean, no, we're friends. He pulls out his checkbook and writes me a check. He said, now what's your excuse? Wow. You have to have somebody who is willing. Yes. He said, now what's your excuse? And can I tell you that every time I say, this is what I want to do, he says, what's the plan and what's your excuse? In other words, so what's the problem? Wow. I'm here. Yeah. I got you. Let's roll. You need somebody who understands your desire and your drive, and who could push you toward that and not get jealous or mad about it. Where is he?
Yeah, Alexa says she's resetting her expectations. Yes. I mean, and yeah, but once again, a lot of people will say, oh, I want a man like that. But you have to be willing to be a woman like that to get a man like that. You can't say, I wish, and then you don't once again address those issues with yourself, because you are not going to get a man like that unless you become a woman like, this. And so if you're going to wish for it, prepare for it.
That's right. People always say that. Ooh, I wish I had a husband like, no, you don't. You can't handle that. I was anointed for this. I'm anointed for this. You can't handle that.
Oh. Right. Good. So it's 8:31, and then I don't want to respect everyone's time. We could go on talking about this forever. But I want to thank all of you for joining us. I'm going to let Dr. Miranda give you her contact information again. Once again, if anything that was brought up here has triggered something in you that you say, well, I need to address this. Dr. Miranda Pearson, she's a certified licensed therapist. She does telecounseling. And so you can, and I'll let her give you that information. So once again, through all of this, we talked about, alpha women, but some other things were kind of peeled back there. And so if you feel as though, what, I really need to, address this, so I can move forward and move past some things. I'm gonna let her give her contact information. Thank you so much, my dear friend. Yes. I thank you guys so much. I will be sending out an email with a link to all of the recordings, including this one. So please watch your email in the next 24, 48 hours for that link. It's going to be a YouTube video. It's going to be a private YouTube video, so you can't go in and search for it. You can't search for Contagious Conversation, any of that. You have to have the link to get to these. So please watch your email. So Miranda, final words, please give us your contact information.
Okay. Great. Thank you all for indulging me, and I appreciate you. I love this type of thing. I love it. I love discussion. So my contact information is www.divine, DIVINEAPPT, 4u.com. That's my website. And it has all my contact information on it. It has my email, it has my cell number, and it has my office number. So if you need to contact me for anything, I am available. Again, I do distance counseling. I do it via Zoom. And I think you would find my prices are very comparable to those across the state, across the country. And so I'm here if you need me. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. And Miranda, can you kind of close us out in prayer? Because like I said, I know there are some things that were triggered, some things that were peeled back. So you can kind of close us out in prayer with that.
Okay, So most gracious and heavenly Father, God, I just give you thanks, praise, glory, honor. Father, we lift you up on tonight, and we appreciate the opportunity to come together, God, as men and women, as we identify who we are and what you have designed us to be. Father, we make no apologies for being assertive. We make no apologies for being made in your image. We make no apologies for doing the things that you have called us to do. So, Father, I thank you that even if there were some wounds that were unearthed, or if there were any triggers on tonight, God, we speak to those right now in the name of Jesus. We call forth the attribute of Jehovah Rapha, the God that heals. And we ask right now that you be the balm in Gilead on that situation. So, Father, I thank you for each and every person that's on this line. And I pray, God, that you give them that peace that surpasses all understanding. Let it guard their heart and their mind. Father, as we continue throughout this year, 2020, even with this COVID-19 situation, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we know that we have been called into the kingdom for such a time as this. So thank you for anointing us with a fresh anointing, ears to hear you, eyes to see you, and a heart that is receptive to what you are saying to the body of Christ at this particular moment. Go before us and make every crooked place straight. We give you all glory, honor, and praise in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So once again, thank you so much. This concludes the Contagious Conversation series. We started at the beginning of April. We've had 10, 12 sessions. So we got about 15 hours of recording for you guys to go back through. This is, look, I don't interact this much in person. Before that, I have never in my life interacted this much with people in real life. So you guys have really pulled this out of me. So, I thank you. I've enjoyed. I might go through withdrawals after this, but I'm good. I'm gonna go about my business now. But once again, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So this concludes. Thank you so much, Dr. Miranda. Cheryl, it's good to see you. Dina, it was good to hear your voice. We can't see your face, but I know what you look like. Miss Sandra, Cassandra, Tasha, Alexis, Corey, Redantria, Kendra, thank you all so much. Wayne, thank you so much. Wayne is my husband, for those of you who don't know.
Yes.
So thank you. Tell Robert we thank him for his background roles there and for being the champ, I always say that Robert is her leather to her lace. That song, Leather and Lace, I always think about that. They sharpen iron. But anyway, I thank you guys so much, so much. Love you all.
Love you. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, Mom.
Hey, where's the baby?
She ran away.
I thought she was gonna contribute to the conversation. I thought she was gonna contribute to the conversation.
She did contribute with her hollering and on.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Oh, hell.
Uh-oh. Well, y'all have a pleasant weekend.
Say what?
I said, y'all have a pleasant weekend.
You do the same. How's Matthew?
He's doing fine. He sat in on the conversation as well.
Oh, okay. Hey, Matthew, how are you?
He just walked outside.
Okay. If I had known he was there, I would have asked him if he had anything he wanted to say.
I did. He said he didn't have anything at the time.
Oh, okay. Hey, Stinkaboo. Hey.
Hey, Serena.
Say hey, Auntie. Oh.
Say hi.
Oh.
Say hi.
Everything good over there? Okay.
Bye.
Keep living. All right, I'm getting off, y'all. Y'all take care.
Bye. All right, we'll talk to you later. We'll see you.
All right, and bye-bye.
Say bye-bye. Say bye. Hey, Stinkapoo.
Hi, Nana.
Bye.
Say hi, Nana.
Hey, go give me a kiss. Say, mwah. Mwah. Oh, look, let me stop. Oh, look.
They're not
the watch party.
He's still live on Facebook.
I know. I'm leaving. How do you stop it?
Why are you pulling my shirt? Are you gonna leave?
How do you stop it?
I don't know. Hey, Facebook. Leave on the face. Oh, it's not recording no more. Oh, yes, it is. Hey, Facebook. Just talking to me.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and end this. we'll talk to y'all later. Bye bye.